deep in the rolling hills of Devon, along a quiet stretch of the River Otter. Something legendary has returned that hasn't been seen in the English wild for over 400 years. In 2015, after centuries of absence, a small family of Eurasian beavers was officially released back into the wild as part of a landmark scientific trial. For generations, the British landscape had been managed into a neat, predictable grid of farmland and canalized rivers. But these beavers had a different plan. They are the ultimate ecosystem engineers, and within just 5 years, they didn't just survive, they completely reimagined the English countryside. The result was a transformation so massive and so efficient that it actually worked too well, sparking a nationwide debate and forcing scientists to rewrite the manual on flood prevention and biodiversity. What these flat-tailed architects did to the water, the soil, and the local wildlife is a scientific revelation that has stunned the global conservation community. This isn't just a story about bringing back a cute animal. It's a story about a biological machine that is literally fixing the planet faster than humans ever could. To understand why this was such a high-stakes gamble, you have to look at the history of England's relationship with its rivers. For 4 centuries, the goal was to get water off the land as fast as possible. We dug straight ditches, reinforced banks with concrete, and removed any obstacles that might slow the flow. But this created a massive problem. During heavy rains, the water would rush downstream all at once, leading to devastating floods in towns and villages. In the summer, those same rivers would run dry because the water hadn't been stored in the landscape. Enter the beaver. Beavers were hunted to extinction in the 1600s for their fur and castoreum, but they left behind a specialized skill set that the UK desperately needs today. They are nature's hydro-engineers. The River Otter beaver trial was the first of its kind. Scientists from the University of Exeter and the Devon Wildlife Trust were tasked with monitoring every single move these animals made. They wanted to know 3 things. Would they cause chaos for farmers? Would they help with flooding? And would they actually improve the water quality? The answer to all 3 was a resounding yes, but in ways that were much more dramatic than anyone had predicted. As soon as the beavers hit the water, they started doing what they do best, building dams. But they didn't just build one dam. They created complex, multi-tiered terrace systems that turned simple streams into vibrant, braided wetlands. The first major scientific discovery was the flow smoothing effect. During a series of heavy storms, researchers placed high-tech sensors above and below the beaver dams. The data that came back was incredible. The peak flow of the river during a flood event was reduced by up to 30%. The dams act like giant sponges or leaky filters. They hold the water back, slowing its velocity and releasing it gradually over days rather than hours. This lag time is the holy grail of flood management. While the local towns downstream were used to the river bursting its banks, the beaver-managed sections stayed remarkably stable. The beavers had essentially built a multi-million-pound flood defense system for the price of a few willow branches and some mud. But the real shocker was what happened during the droughts. In the scorching summers of recent years, while other English rivers were drying up and fish were struggling in shallow, warm pools, the beaver ponds remained deep and cool. They were creating refugia, sanctuary zones where life could persist even when the rest of the landscape was parched. By holding water on the land, the beavers were recharging the local groundwater levels. This meant that the soil around the ponds stayed moist, helping farmers' crops survive nearby and providing a permanent drinking source for livestock and wild animals. It was a complete reversal of 400 years of drainage logic. Then there was the water quality. This is where the beavers really showed off their too-well performance. Runoff from agricultural land in England is often heavy with silt, nitrogen, and phosphorus from fertilizers. This pollution can lead to toxic algae blooms and destroy fish populations. But the beaver dams act as massive natural filtration systems. As the water passes through the wooden structures and the settling ponds behind them, the sediment drops to the bottom. Scientists found that the water leaving a beaver site was significantly cleaner than the water entering it. In some cases, the dams were trapping tons of silt that would have otherwise clogged up the river downstream. The beavers were effectively running a decentralized water treatment plant, 24 hours a day, for free. But working too well also brought some challenges. Beavers don't respect property lines. In some areas, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, flood the land. But they chose to flood a farmer's prize field of corn or a specific drainage ditch that kept a road dry. They began felling ancient trees that locals had cherished for decades. This created a friction point between the biological success of the project and the human management of the land. It proved that you can't just drop and forget a keystone species. You need beaver officers, specialized teams that can install beaver deceivers, which are hidden pipes that manage the water level of a dam without the beaver realizing it. It's a delicate dance of coexistence that the UK is still learning to master. The impact on biodiversity was perhaps the most hauntingly beautiful part of the discovery. When we say beavers are a keystone species, we mean that they create the foundation for hundreds of other lives. As the ponds formed, the number of amphibians exploded. Common frogs, toads, and a rare great-crested newt moved in almost immediately. And where there are frogs, there are hunters. The reach of the beavers brought back birds like the gray heron, the little egret, and even the elusive kingfisher in record numbers. The soundscape of the river otter changed from a quiet agricultural stream to a noisy, bustling wetland jungle. One of the most surprising results was the fish factor. For years, anglers and fishing groups were worried that beaver dams would act as walls, preventing Atlantic salmon and brown trout from reaching their spawning grounds. But the Devon study showed the opposite. During high water, the fish simply leaped over the dams or swam through the gaps. More importantly, the beaver ponds provided the nursery habitat that young fish desperately need. The tangled wood and deep water provided cover from predators and a massive increase in insect life for food. Scientists recorded a significant increase in the size and health of fish in the beaver-managed reaches. The dams weren't barriers, they were incubators. The return of the beavers also triggered a chemical revolution in the river. Because the water was slower and more oxygenated in certain areas, the microbial life in the soil flourished. These microbes are essential for breaking down organic matter and cycling nutrients. The beavers were essentially replumbing the chemistry of the earth. This has massive implications for carbon sequestration, and by creating these new boggy areas, the beavers are helping the UK meet its climate goals one dam at a time. It's a decentralized carbon capture network made of mud and sticks. Technology used to monitor this trial was just as impressive as the animals themselves. Scientists used LiDAR drones to create high-resolution 3D maps of the river's topology before and after the beavers arrived. They could see the literal shaping of the earth in centimeter-perfect detail. They used eDNA sensors to track the appearance of new species simply by analyzing a liter of water. This data gave us the first high-definition look at how a single species can cascade its influence through an entire landscape. It proved that beavers aren't just living in the river, they are making the river. But why did it work too well? Because the beavers showed us how broken our rivers actually were. When the beavers started fixing things, they did it with such speed and intensity that it highlighted just how much work there was to do. They exposed the flaws in our drainage systems and the vulnerability of our monoculture farmlands. They acted as a mirror, showing us that our managed nature was actually a sterile shell of what it could be. The beavers didn't just bring back dams, they brought back messiness. And in biology, messiness is the key to resilience. This discovery has sparked a beaver gold rush across England. From the suburbs of London to the highlands of the Peak District, estates and local councils are now clamoring for their own beaver families. They have become the poster child for the rewilding movement. But the Devon trial taught us a vital lesson. You have to be ready for the success. If you bring back the engineers, you have to be prepared to let them change the map. You have to be willing to give up a bit of control in exchange for a landscape that can handle a flood and support 1,000 different species. Looking toward 2030, the UK government has officially recognized beavers as a protected species in England. This is a massive legal shift. It means we are moving from testing to living with. The river otter model is being used to design new national policies on nature-based solutions. We are learning that sometimes the best way to spend £1 billion infrastructure budget isn't on concrete and pumps, but on a few families of rodents and the willow trees they eat. The beavers have proven that biological infrastructure is more flexible, more persistent, and much cheaper than anything humans can build. The cultural impact has been just as profound. The beavers have become local celebrities. Schools have incorporated them into their curriculum, and beaver watching has become a legitimate boost to the local rural economy. People are reconnecting with their local rivers in a way they haven't in centuries. They are seeing that the river isn't just a pipe to get rid of water. It's a living, breathing limb of the country. This psychological reconnection is perhaps the most important result of all. If people care about the beaver, they care about the water. If they care about the water, they care about the whole planet. The genetic side of the story is also fascinating. The beavers released in Devon came from a variety of sources to ensure a healthy gene pool. Scientists are now mapping the genetic heritage of these new English beavers. They are becoming a unique subpopulation, adapted to the specific temperate climate and vegetation of the UK. This source population will likely supply the rest of the country for the next 50 years. It's a project of biological legacy that will be felt by the great-grandchildren of the people who released them. One of the most haunting discoveries in the trial was the ghost of forests past. As the beavers flooded certain areas and cleared others, they revealed the ancient structure of the riverbank that had been buried for centuries. They were inadvertently restoring the paleohydrology of the region. The river started to look like it did in the Middle Ages, wide, braided, and full of life. It's a reminder that we aren't just creating a new future. We are reclaiming a lost past. The beavers carry the blueprints for a healthy England in their instincts. As the program moves into its next phase, the focus is on conflict resolution. How do we keep a beaver from damming a culvert that protects a railway line? How do we compensate a farmer whose grazing land becomes a permanent pond? The Devon success has forced the government to create a whole new department of beaver management. It's a job that hasn't existed since the time of King Henry VIII. The fact that we are even having these conversations is a testament to how well the beavers did their job. The beavers also taught us about landscape connectivity. They moved between different river systems with surprising ease, traversing small hills and crossing minor roads. This showed scientists that the English countryside is more permeable than we thought. It gave hope for other species like the pine marten or the lynx, which might one day follow the beaver paths back into the wild heart of the country. The beavers are the frontier force, opening the door for a wider restoration of the British Isles. Looking at the big picture, the River Otter Beaver Trial is a story of humility. It's a story about humans admitting that our superior engineering was actually failing. It's about a team of scientists who were willing to step back and let a four-legged rodent take the lead. And it's about a landscape that was waiting for its architect to return. The too-well result isn't a problem. It's an invitation. It invites us to imagine a world where our infrastructure is alive, where our flood defenses grow on trees, and where our rivers find their own way home. The 2030s will see the beaverification of many UK river systems. We will see beaver corridors that act as green lungs through our cities and farmlands. We will see a reduction in the hydro-logistical stress on our towns. And we will see a generation of children who grow up knowing that a healthy river is supposed to have dams, ponds, and the sound of splashing tails in the twilight. The beavers of Devon didn't just fix a river. They fixed our vision of what nature can be. As we conclude this deep dive into the rewilding of England, think about the rivers in your own part of the world. Are they straight and sterile, or are they messy and alive? The England beaver discovery tells us that we have the power to bring back the magic. We have the power to restore the missing pieces of the puzzle. And watch as the whole system starts to hum with energy again. The beavers are back. They are building, and they are reminding us every day that life finds a way, especially when that life has huge orange teeth and a drive to build a better world. The too-well outcome is the ultimate complement to the beavers' resilience. They didn't just fit in, they took over. They showed us that the ecological potential of the land is far greater than our models predicted. They reminded us that nature is spring-loaded, ready to bounce back the moment we remove the obstacles. The River Otter is now a living monument to this resilience. It's a place where you can see the future in the ripples of a beaver pond, and hear the past in the call of a heron. The lesson for every country is clear. Don't be afraid of the Keystone effect. Don't be afraid to bring back the specialists. Yes, it will be messy. Yes, it will require new ways of thinking and managing the land. But the rewards, the cleaner water, the reduced floods, the explosion of life, are worth every minor inconvenience. The beavers of England are the silent heroes of the 21st century landscape. They are rebuilding the country, one stick at a time. And as the sun sets over the Devon Hills and the beavers begin their nightly shift, we can know that the River Otter is in safe hands. The engineers are at work. The dams are holding. The water is clear. And for the first time in 400 years, the English wild is truly, wonderfully, and too well alive. Trust in the science of the wild, embrace the messiness, and keep your eyes on the water. The beavers are just getting started. The project has also paved the way for urban rewilding. If beavers can fix a rural river in Devon, why not a neglected stream in a city park? Trials are already beginning in the outskirts of London. The beaver is proving to be a versatile tool for urban climate adaptation. By creating wetlands in our cities, they can help mitigate the urban heat island effect and provide essential green spaces for people's mental health. The beaver effect is truly universal. In the final scientific report, the researchers noted that the presence of beavers had actually increased the economic value of the river's services by millions of pounds. Between flood damage avoided and water filtration costs saved, the beavers were the best investment the county had ever made. This natural capital approach is the new language of conservation. It's about proving that nature is the most valuable asset we have, and the beavers are the most efficient managers of that asset. So, the next time you see a fallen willow or a suspicious pile of mud in a British stream, don't just see a mess, see a miracle. See the return of a 400-year-old expert who is working overtime to save our world. The beavers of England have arrived, and they have brought the future with them, a future that is wet, wild, and incredibly resilient. The experiment worked too well because nature doesn't do things by halves. When you give life a chance, it goes all the way, and that is exactly what our planet needs right now. The scientists are still there, the drones are still flying, and the beavers are still building. The story of the river otter is far from over, but the first chapter has been a triumph. It's a triumph of science, of persistence, and of beavers. England is a little bit wilder tonight, and the world is a little bit better for it. The result is in, and it's spectacular. The beavers are home, and they are staying. Trust in the fur, the teeth, and the tail. The revolution is here, and it's building a dam in a river near you.